This is Karen Abbott from PharmTech and PetTech, and they sell a number of dog pregnancy related items, and I thought that it would be good to talk about it. This became a particular interest of mine when COVID hit and we couldn't get to the vet, and I wasn't the only one that had that problem. And I couldn't take progesterone tests, I couldn't confirm pregnancies, and it was just a big mess. So I think these products in this post-COVID world are more and more relevant to us. So I thought, you know, we talk about them in some of the groups sometimes, and I thought, let's go direct to the source and talk to Karen. And I've been talking to Karen for a few months now because there are some knockoffs on the market, and that confuses people in similar products. So I thought we should hear it directly from Karen. I think the first thing we can talk about is the ovulation detector. So Karen, do you want to just introduce us to what that is?
Yeah, sure. But first, I just wanted to say hi, everybody.
Yeah, sorry about that.
I was really excited to be invited to participate in the webinar. And G will tell you that this is my first time ever joining a webinar other than an observer. And I was really nervous. But then she told me all about you and the group, and it really won me over to the idea, and I'm delighted to have a chance to get to speak with all of you. So thank you. Yeah, and I'll give you a little bit of history about us. So as G said, we have two divisions. One is PharmTech, and the other is PetTech. And our primary goal is products and education for breeders and for veterinarians and supporting reproduction. So obviously PharmTech, we support more livestock. And with our PetTech division, we work only with dog breeders. And we're in partnership with the Canadian Kennel Club here in Canada as well. Just because, you know, like G was saying, our aim is always to really support responsible breeding. And we thought that that would really sort of assist us in making sure that we were in front of the right audience and supporting them. So we've been working with these products now for almost 10 years. And the manufacturer themselves developed some of these products, the ovulation in particular, in the early 1990s, late 80s, for fox breeding in Europe. And it worked beautifully. The method itself is called impedance, and there's a lot of science backing up the method and how it works in a number of different species. But when they looked at, you know, how successful it was with the fox breeders in Europe at the time, you know, it made sense that the technology should work with canines as well. So it was tested, and some of the research was done at a variety of different universities in Europe, and well proven to work. So they launched the ovulation detector for dogs in Europe early 1990s. So it's had a very successful, you know, 2-3 decades out in the market. And for us, you know, we can speak specifically to it for the last 10 years, our experience with it, and people love it. If you use it properly, you are consistent, it absolutely works, and it can be really, really helpful. So I was so excited to get a chance to join all of you today and take your questions, because we see so much chatter on social media, particularly about the ovulation detector, and a lot of it isn't, you know, accurate. And you know, I think this is just a great venue to answer your questions directly, or, you know, don't be shy. You can say, you know, I've heard this, or someone told me this, and we've heard it all over the last 10 years. So yeah, we have heard it all. We're glad to you know, be as candid as possible and be open to all your questions. So G, do you want me to just sort of walk them through the product?
Yeah, let's talk. Yeah, let's do that and show what it is if you have one there.
Okay.
And how it's used basically.
Perfect. I will. But listen, interrupt me anytime. If I'm finding the sound of my own voice too fun, please
Okay.
stop me at any moment. So, okay, so we'll start with the ovulation detector. That's the most popular product that we have in the portfolio, and it's also the one that tends to be of greatest interest, and also has a lot of questions. So it comes.
Before you get into that, I just want to mention that you are in Canada, and so
Yes.
the prices on the site are often in Canadian dollars, so they look more expensive to us here in the US. So you need to look at the exchange rate before you look at that. But most days it's cheaper to get it from you than in the US because shipping is free and there's no tax and your price is lower. So I just want to mention that to people.
Yeah, thank you. She's right. We're up in Canada, so your dollar goes a lot farther than our dollar. You can change the currency to US dollars on our website, but it'll flip it to Canadian at the checkout. Um, so anyway, G can always share that. We have all the US prices for you right now, but she's right. Just as she said, like as a Canadian company, we don't collect or charge US sales taxes, and we do offer free shipping across North America. So the retail price is the final price. There's nothing added, no taxes, no duties, no shipping. So it can often be better. So, and I think G also has some exciting offers to go with the devices for you if it is something you are wanting to invest in. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up. Okay, so we'll start. So this is what the products come in. They've got these nice little hard cases, so you've got somewhere to store them and keep them clean and safe and protected. It's not the most beautiful looking thing, but it is functional and it works. It's reliable, it's accurate, and it'll do everything it promises as long as you use it properly. So, I mean, the technology itself is really pretty simple. It's just a little handheld device like this. Some of you may have seen it online. There's a little probe here, and at the end of the probe is a sensor. And that sensor is really what's taking the reading. So, as I said earlier, it uses a method called impedance. So what this little sensor does is you want to get that inserted into the vagina and up as close to the cervix as you can. And I'll talk about, how far and all of that good stuff as we discuss this. But so first I'll just sort of walk you through what it's doing. So once we get it inserted, the little sensor there will take a measurement of the electrical resistance of the vaginal mucus. And that changes quite predictably as the dogs move through their heat cycles. So as their bodies are being flooded with all those different hormones, progesterone, estrogen, LH, all that stuff, those cocktails of hormones are affecting their vaginal mucus and changing it. So what they found is that if you measure that consistently, there is a pattern. And you will get an indication right before they ovulate. So you can time your breedings really beautifully. So what you want to do is start testing your girls as soon as you notice they've started their heat cycle. As early into the heat cycle as possible is best for a number of reasons. Sometimes, there's surprise early ovulators. We've seen it in the first 4 days in some cases, which is quite shocking. But also it gives you a baseline, so you kind of know like where this girl is, her baseline level is starting at. So when you start testing at the beginning of the heat cycle, you'll notice that the readings will be at their lowest point. And then what's going to happen is, and I promise I'll walk you through sort of how to do the test and how often and so on and so forth. But first, I just kind of want to give you an overview of the method itself. So we start testing as early as we can in the heat cycle. And you're going to get a reading. You'll get a little number on the display of the device. Those numbers are the measurements that they're actually taking. So what those numbers will indicate is it'll start off low, and then what's interesting is that this is the opposite in every other species. Dogs are the only ones that work this way, but the readings start low. As they get closer to ovulating, they'll start to climb higher, higher, higher. At their LH surge, the numbers will reach their highest point. We call it the peak reading. And then, which will, obviously, I'm sure you're all well aware of this, but at the LH surge, that will trigger the ovaries to release an egg. And then once, so at the LH surge, this will reach its highest point. It's going to be the highest reading. It'll never go that high again. And then at ovulation, it starts to drop. So that's what you're looking for with the readings in the device. So you're looking for the peak and then the decline. And it could be different in all your breeding dogs, even with the same girl from heat cycle to heat cycle. So what we want you to know is, don't get too hung up on the numbers themselves. You're really looking for the pattern or the trend. It's going to go up and then come down. And so it'll reach its highest reading at the LH surge and then drop at ovulation. When you find the peak and the drop, we suggest that you breed them 24 hours after the decline, 48 hours at the latest. So that really should put you about 24 hours ahead of ripe eggs. Does that make sense?
Awesome. That's fantastic.
Yeah. Okay. So if you like, I can give you a little more detail on sort of how to do a test.
I have a question.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Do you have to do this more than once a day, or are the spikes, they last for 24 hours, or is there a certain time frame that you need to do them other than every day?
Right. That's perfect. Like, what a great question. Yes, you're absolutely right. So when you start testing, we would recommend once a day is perfect, but be consistent. And consistency is really helpful because, it's a biological process. So depending on a lot of different factors, you can have little fluctuations throughout the day. So if you start on day one, say at 8 a.m., try your best to stick to 8 a.m. or as close to it every day after that. It just makes interpreting everything a lot smoother. Then once a day is fine. So every 24 hours. When you start to see the readings increasing, we would suggest then going to every 12 hours, because a lot can happen, as you know, in 12 hours. So if you're testing, say, at 8 a.m. and then again at 8 p.m., that's perfect. Sometimes with dogs, they have these little sort of false peaks, we call them, early in their cycle. So they can have a little ups and downs. And when it's new to you, that can be a little confusing. So if you're testing every 12 hours, you'll know, oh, it was up and then it went down a little bit, and then 12 hours later, it's back up again. That's obviously a false peak, because once she ovulates, it's going to start to drop and, almost always just carries on declining.
It's a pretty clear drop too.
Yes.
Not just a fluctuation.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
And then, since we're talking about this, you have some solutions for people who have dogs in guardian homes, for example?
Oh, yeah, great question also. We hear that a lot, breeders who have their dogs in other people's care. But, even before the pandemic, they just wanted a tool that would be, easy, a one-time investment, and, maybe not the stress and expense and travel of a lot of progesterone testing. So they would invest in them and then send them to their guardian homes and, train them, teach them how to use it, and then just ask them to do the tests every day for them so that they were able to better time ovulation and breeding. Yeah, so that happens a lot. We hear that a lot. It's pretty common.
Thank you.
Yeah. So is there any other questions about what we just discussed?
No, thank you.
Oh, great. Okay, good. So actually doing a test itself, now there's two models for the device. The one I'm holding in my hand is the one we call the original device. There is a new one. We call it the DoD2. The devices themselves and the sensors and how it performs the readings and so on and so forth are identical. They work exactly the same way. The only difference is really personal preference. The original ones look just like this. They have no memory, but they'll give you the readings. So they come with a paper graph. So you just chart and graph them by hand on the paper charts. The new ones have memory, and they have software that you can upload onto your computer. So you can just connect them with a USB cable to your computer, and it'll upload all your readings, all the results. It will save them, store them. You can sort them by your dog's names. It'll graph them and chart them for you. So it's a little more expensive, but honestly, it's really personal preference. We find some people just really love to write things down and do it by hand, and others really love that, you know, now everything is tracked and saved and stored and graphed and charted for them. So it's up to you. So doing the test is really pretty straightforward. So you always want to clean and disinfect the probe, obviously, before you use it. We would also suggest that you clean and disinfect it after you use it and then put it away in the case, just so you know it's always clean and sterile. You can clean it with warm water and soap. Never use hot water because you'll damage the sensors. And then any veterinary or medical grade disinfectant is perfect. You can wipe it off afterwards just in case you don't want any of that residue, you know, entering a vagina and maybe stinging or being irritating or anything like that. So clean it and disinfect it. And then what you're going to do is, I mean, you know, for the breeders that are doing their own AIs and things like that, they're probably pretty experienced in this, but you're going to insert it at sort of a 45-degree angle, you know, because there's going to be a little hump in the vagina that you need to get up and over. So we kind of go in at a 45-degree angle, get over the hump, and then you can lift it up, level off, and then just gently insert it until you feel resistance. So you know you're at the cervix. Some dogs, you know, their cervixes might already be open and you might get no resistance, which is fine too. Most of them don't mind. Like, they really couldn't be bothered by it. Now, for larger breeds, they'll take the whole probe really easily, and generally medium-sized breeds too. I mean, you know, Labs, Dobermans, German Shepherds, and anything, you know, bigger than that will take the whole length of the probe. You know, smaller and medium-sized dogs, I mean, some of them are still, you know, you're inserting it pretty much the entire length of the probe. Now, for those of you that breed really small dogs or toy breeds, you are the ones that call us the most because you're nervous about inserting it too far and hurting them. So what I would recommend is, I mean, if you've ever seen an AI done, you know how much, you know, tubing they're putting in to reach the cervix, and it's usually more than you think. But also, like, if you've seen what the males look like, that's a pretty good gauge of how far you can insert it. So like, even with the toy breeds, you're probably going in, you know, 3 inches or so. So just gently up, over, level off, and then in up to as close to the cervix as you can. That will give you the best contact with the vaginal mucus that you want on the sensors to get accurate results. So once it's in, you can leave it in, maybe just let it in there for, you know, 20, 30 seconds or so it gets up to her body temperature, and then you can press the button to turn it on. Then you press the button, it's going to take a reading. And then what we want you to do is rotate it just so you're mixing more fluid on the sensors. Press the button again. It's going to take a second reading. Rotate it again. Press the button a third time. It'll take a third reading. And then you can pull it out, so it only takes a few seconds. Press the button the last time, and then what it's going to do is it's going to give you the average of the 3 results it just took. That's the number that you want to pay attention to. So, and again, the number itself is really not, you know, nothing to be too worked up about. What you're looking for is, you know, is it going up? And then certainly, is it going up and then coming down? So you want to find the highest reading and then the decline. And like I said, the highest reading is always at the LH surge. The drop will be at ovulation. Some bitches will have a peak reading of, 600 or 700. Some might be 12 or 1300. So again, doesn't really matter so much. Just look for the trend. Did I do a good job of sort of
Yeah,
explaining
that was
how to
perfect.
do it? Oh, great. Okay, perfect.
Does anybody have any questions? Okay, fantastic. Now, I want to ask you about, have you had people do side by side with progesterone? Because I've done this myself with your detector, but I want to hear about more cases if you have them.
Yeah, we have, certainly, and we've had vets do it as well. And we do have a couple of, people do share some of those results with us, so I can always email them to you, Jean, if you want to share them.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. And I mean, as you know, even with progesterone, like it's really like there's no sort of exact number that says that, she's ovulated. It's usually within a small range. So we know, okay, so here's our window. But always when we've seen side by sides, the peak and the drop are exactly in that window also.
Fantastic.
So yeah, so but that's a great point also. We have a lot of breeders that once they've used it and they've sort of built up their confidence with it, they know they can trust it. They'll rely on it solely for their breedings. And then we have others that will use it more as a timing tool so that they're not running to the vet doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 progesterone tests. They'll time with it and then they'll go get one progesterone test just to, verify that they're on the right track. So it can be really time, stress, and, economical savings, on that front. Yeah.
Yeah, and we have a question from Sandy. What's the difference between the original model and the new model? She says there's a big price difference.
Yeah, so as I was saying, like with the original model, there's no memory in the device. So it comes with like these, it comes with, pull it out here, paper graphs. So you get these little graph papers so you can put their names on it, the dates and stuff like that. And then you just plot the numbers and the readings. So you'll find sort of the peak and the drop on your paper charts. The new ones have memory. And so all your test results for all your breeding dogs will be saved in the device itself. And there's software that you can download onto your computer. So when you connect your device to your computer with the USB cable, you can upload all your test results for all the dogs and you identify them by name and so on and so forth. So you'll have like this whole history saved. It'll also chart and graph it for you. So it just makes it easier.
Can you do 2 dogs at once? Can you tell the device that you're doing different dogs?
Yes. Yeah, you can do.
Is your
pretty
software
much limitless.
Is your software Mac compatible or is it PC only?
It's PC only. They've always been pretty committed to that. I don't know. It's like the challenges in doing Mac, but I think for now it's PC only.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a good question.
And what's the price difference?
Now I have to.
In today's,
I have to look it up in US dollars. Yeah, give me 2 seconds. I'm just gonna pull it up in US dollars.
Okay, and then Karen, while you're doing that, I'll talk. Karen gave me a bunch of links that include instructions and FAQs and best practices and a price list that's reflective of today's prices and some other things. And I'll post that when we're done with this chat. And then I have what you sent me yesterday, if that'll be easier.
Yeah, actually, I'm looking at the exact same thing right now.
Okay.
So to answer that question, the new Ovulation Detector 2 is $529 US. And like I said, that's all in because we don't collect or charge US sales taxes and we ship for free. The original DoD is $367 US.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, and we've had a number of breeders call us and say, my return on investment on this device was my first litter. Like it just paid for itself immediately. Like whether you look at sort of, cost savings from trips to the vet for progesterone tests or whatnot, or many of them are in rural places where it takes too long because there is no local lab. So, they're drawing blood at the vets, it's getting mailed out to the lab. And by the time they get the results back, it's 2 days. which is
And that's
frustrating.
how I've been using it, is to help with knowing when to start progesterone testing, and it has saved me money. I don't think it took a litter or two, like you said, to make back what I saved on it.
Yeah, it's usually immediate. And in fact, as I said earlier, we partnered with the Canadian Kennel Club a number of years ago. And, you know, they certainly do their due diligence before they'll put their name on, you know, paired with any company or product. So obviously they tested the devices, and, you know, our key contact there breeds German Shorthair Pointers. And she has one girl that was notorious for silent heats. And she keeps males, you know, on her site, and even they would ignore her. So they just really never knew, but always wanted to breed her successfully. Anyway, they've had a number of like litters, 7, 8, 9 puppies with Willa, because they've sort of said, okay, we think she probably should be starting her heat now. And they just start using the device every day. They said she's got no outward signs or symptoms, none. But we always find the peak and the drop, and we breed her, and it's working. So, yeah.
That's really interesting. I didn't know that. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Good
So
story.
you can find, you know, it can answer questions, you know, like silent heats, split heats, early ovulators, late ovulators, you know. Yeah, it can take a lot of that guessing out.
That's really fantastic. What about training and support?
Yeah, well, you know, obviously all of you know G, and, you know, rely on her for great education and so on and so forth. And it's one of the reasons why we were excited to work together with her, because we really believe that, you know, the best support and education is from an experienced breeder who's also an experienced user. So you can speak, you know, to a trusted peer or colleague or mentor who's actually using it, and is, you know, going to be able to share with you honestly their experience. So we do work with a few breeders like that, and like yourself, that we call specialists. So we rely on them quite a bit to, you know, work with other breeders when they have questions, or then usually it's just me. So, you know, and like I said, after 10 years of the phone ringing, we have been asked everything. So we try to put every question we get into our frequently asked questions, which I gave Gia a link for so she can share it with you, because chances are if you have a question, it's been asked, and you won't have to pick up the phone and call and ask us. You can just go through the FAQs, but there's a lot of video tutorials on the website, so you can watch all of them to learn, you know, exactly what you're doing and how to get the best results out of your device. We've got the frequently asked questions. Of course, there's a detailed user manual, which is really helpful. And then we're here, you know, some people will even send us their graphs and charts, and we'll look at them and see, you know,
Awesome.
share what we think. Yeah.
Awesome. And then let's talk about the unfun stuff, the knockoffs that are on the market.
Yeah, that's been a sort of an ongoing thing for a number of years. So there are knockoffs. I'm sure you've seen them. You can find them on Amazon, maybe eBay. There was even a company that went so far as promoting themselves as the manufacturer, which is Draminski. And they even had a website called Draminski USA, and they were making a knockoff in China and selling it. So it was really confusing for breeders, because it looked the same, it sounded the same, it was presented the same. They really believed they were getting the genuine product and weren't. And then we were getting calls about inconsistent results and, you know, unreliable readings and things. And then, you know, a little more questioning, like, well, when did you buy it from us? You know, or where did you buy it? We would find out it was a knockoff, you know, and they're just, yeah, it's a shame. We felt bad for people because they unknowingly spent money on a counterfeit product, and it wasn't reliable. There's others that we've seen mostly on Amazon that look really similar, but different casing, different colors, different names and stuff, and they're really, really cheap. I haven't tested one myself, but I wouldn't count on that at all. Like, I'd be pretty concerned if you see something, you know, for $100 and it sounds the same. It's not. It isn't.
Well, and you can look at the reviews, and
yeah,
you know, And I think that's terrible because it makes it look like your product doesn't work. And I've seen for myself that it does work. So that disturbs me a little bit because, and I'm sure it disturbs you more, because those companies make you guys look bad.
Yeah, it's really a shame because it just created so much sort of inconsistent information out there. And we know that, so many of you really count on each other for opinions and testimonials and feedback. And I think it did a lot of damage, which is really too bad. What I should tell you too is like this manufacturer, they've been building and making these and other equipment for over 30 years. And they're incredible. Like they make exceptional quality products that work. They do exactly what they're supposed to do. They don't break. Like they last a lifetime. I've met people at dog shows who bought one like, in 1991. And they're still using it. In fact, that gentleman told me he used to chart his stuff in the old bank books. Remember the old paper bank books they would give you? Like that's how long ago he bought it. He's still using
it.
Yeah. But what's interesting about them too is, one, they invest in really high quality engineering, but also components. Like these aren't, poor quality electrical components in there and stuff. So one, we know it's safe. And two, we know it works, and three, we know it isn't going to break. We've never had one come back because it didn't work or it, malfunctioned or something. That's almost never the case. And they produce them on order. Like they don't send this out to, manufacturing in China and get, 10,000 of them made that sit in a warehouse. When we order them, we wait 2 weeks for them to build them.
And they're made in Poland?
Yeah. Very, very popular in Europe and the UK and Australia, actually. I'm not sure why they were a little late to the party on this one in North America, but yeah.
Let's see. I see in the chat, and you guys, you're welcome to ask questions in the chat or unmute yourself to chat. But this says, so reading your site, it looks like if you go too far, it can give high readings, and not far enough, it gives low readings. If there's no resistance, how do we know? So I think that's pro placement question.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm so glad that whoever asked that, thank you for asking that, because that's a really good question. So when I said earlier, consistency is really important. Consistency with where that sensor goes is also important. So if you're, inserting it 4 inches, and then the next time you're going in 2 inches, your readings will be completely different. And it's going to be really inconsistent. So it's really important that you get the sensor to the same spot in the vagina as possible each time, which is as close to the cervix as you can get. So I wish we had sort of a chart that we could suggest to you based on sort of like the average male, penis size by breed, but I tried to find one, by the way. That will take you down a terrible road on the internet. So don't do it. I'd say rely on each other and your own experience. But, that's really sort of the best thing. Like if you're AIing dogs, then you know how far you're putting the tubing in. And then, when you're breeding them, like how long is the male? Like you really want to be emulating that.
So I'm going to jump in here with something that might will help with that, and also with purchasing. I have a fertility course that I just launched, and if anybody who's in this discussion purchases a Draminski, you'll get a fertility course half price, or 75% off. I think I said, let's make it 75%. 75% off.
Oh, so she just upped it.
But even better than that, there's a whole section there because it includes cytology and AI. There's a whole section on how to insert to find the cervix. So there are diagrams and videos, and then I can make additional videos if things aren't clear to people, and we can make sure that you get this in the right place.
Oh, that's perfect. That's really excellent. You know what? And you reminded me of a few more things. Don't put anything on the sensor or the probe, because whatever fluid it's in contact with is what it's going to be testing. So no lubricants, nothing like that, because you will interfere with the results that you're getting and they won't make sense. And we do recommend to you know, like just clean her vulva off, because urine can be very salty, which if that gets on the sensors, it's going to depress the readings. You know what, me touching it, like I'm getting oils probably from my skin and maybe sweat and other things. Like you don't want anything on that sensor that's going to interfere with the readings that it's taking.
And then to clean her vulva from urine, you just want to use maybe a damp towel or a dry towel, not a baby wipe, because the baby wipe may introduce some compounds. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, it could be residue. I mean, usually, you know, we just see like, you know, like just, yeah, like a damp tissue or dry tissue or, yeah. But, you know, like if she's just, you know, gone outside to urinate, then, you know, you just want to make sure you're not getting any urine or anything on the sensors. Yeah. But, you know, like sometimes you might see people posting about the product on, say, Facebook or something, and they'll say, you know, like, has anybody used this? Does it work? And we see that a lot. And, you know, to your point, G, like sometimes maybe people accidentally ended up with a counterfeit product that didn't work, which is disappointing. But most of the time, it's, you know, whenever someone calls us and they say it doesn't work, we say, okay, so walk us through how you were using it. And I'm telling you, 10 times out of 10, it's just operator error, and it's really easily resolved. It's either inconsistent, you know, like I'll say, send us your chart so we can have a look. And then we look at the graph and see, oh, they checked her on Monday at 9 a.m., but then not till Wednesday at 6 p.m., and then skipped Thursday and Friday and did Saturday, you know, and then they'll say, oh, it doesn't make sense. Well, it won't make sense. You know, like it's really important that you use it properly and consistently, or they're too nervous to put the probe in as far as it needs to go. And if it's too shallow, you know, it's not going to be accurate. Yeah. So, I mean, follow the instructions, and, you know, or call if you're nervous and get your questions answered, because if you use it properly and consistently, you will be delighted, you know, with how easy it actually is. Yeah.
It's very easy. It doesn't even take a minute. You know, even with the cleaning, it doesn't even take a minute.
Yeah.
Probably takes longer for me to put something on a chart than to actually do the test.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any more questions about this product? Okay, so all things go well with this, and there's a breeding, and then maybe there's a pregnancy. So what are our options at that point?
Sorry, you cut out for just a second. I missed the
sorry. So I said everything goes well with this, and there's a breeding, and there may be a pregnancy. So what are our options when we think there may be a pregnancy?
Yeah, good. You know, and we have, I mean, demand for all the products has exploded since the pandemic started. And imagine that that's a lot to do with vets being closed, or, you know, people just wanting to be able to sort of take this stuff into their own hands and manage it at home.
Yeah, I think we had a lot of hard lessons in the last few months.
Yeah, that's for sure. And we've been trying to keep up with the demand, to be honest. Like, it's really just, it's amazing. I mean, so many of you that we get a chance to speak to or meet at dog shows and stuff, you know, like you're just autonomous people in nature. It just seems like you're just good at, like, you know, learning new things and doing it yourself. Like, we're kind of surprised how much, you know, sometimes you know more than the vets. Like, it's remarkable. So it's sort of a natural progression that's pushed us into this, you know, where more of you are becoming aware of like what you can do at home. So, you know, if you have a successful breeding, or you don't know you have a successful breeding, you know, we know how excited you are and how early you want to find out if you've got a pregnancy. So there's a couple options, really. You know, best case is an ultrasound. Obviously, many of you are probably going for x-rays, you know, after day 50 or so. Not sure how easy that is anymore with the vets being closed. And then some of you are able to go get ultrasounds a little earlier at your vets, but doing an ultrasound at home is a lot easier than you think also. Now, an ultrasound machine is certainly more of an investment, but, you know, if, you know, being able to look at the pregnancies, confirm or exclude pregnancy is important to you, during whelping, people will use them to make sure that there's no puppies left behind.
Mm-hmm.
She's maybe got somebody stuck in there. You think she's finished, but there's still another one. You can follow the pregnancies. You can do your best to count. It's a little tricky with ultrasound because obviously they're sort of all in there on top of each other and overlapped and stuff like that. So really sort of a good rule of thumb for counting with ultrasound, if that's a goal of yours, is if you can see, let me grab a probe. So it's all wrapped up in bubble wrap still because it's new, but this is one of the ultrasound probes. So like if while holding the probe on her abdomen, if you can see, more than one amniotic sac or fetus or puppy in there in one shot, you have at least that many.
Mm-hmm.
So that way you're not, counting, them twice and things like that. Yeah. So, so back to your question, there's really kind of two things you can use. One is an ultrasound. And the other is, we've got something else by the same manufacturer. It's the pregnancy detector. It uses ultrasound technology, but it doesn't have a screen. So
And this is different than a Doppler. This is an ultrasound, not a Doppler.
Exactly. But it works kind of in the same way. So this, we would say, like, if you're not ready for, the investment of an ultrasound machine, then, the pregnancy detector is sort of like a cheap and cheerful yes, no, that you can do yourself at home. It's safe, it's harmless. You can't, overuse it on them. So really, it's got a little dial on it. It says small, medium, large, extra large. So you just adjust that to the size of the dog that you want to examine. And then it does use ultrasound technology. So you're going to dip the probe in a little oil. It comes with the product because ultrasound waves won't pass through air. So if you've ever had an ultrasound, then they use a lot of gel. And that's really to just make sure there's no air bubbles between the probe and your skin. So it's the same with this because it's using ultrasound waves. So what it does is you just methodically, slowly run it up and down each, the left and right uterine horn. And what it does is the ultrasound waves are detecting fluid. So slowly and carefully, and if you've got good contact, the device will let you know that you're doing it right and it's working by a beep. So what you'll hear is beep, 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 and that's perfect. So you've got good contact. If there's no sound, then you either need more, gel or oil, or maybe you need to shave, or you're just, you press it in there a little better. If it picks up an amniotic sac and detects the fluid, it'll go boop, 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 boop. So it's pretty straightforward, but without a screen like an ultrasound, you're getting a yes, no. And you can start checking them, as early as day 20 gestation, but it's really pretty too soon. I mean, some people say they can do it, but it's really better after day 25 and probably ideal by 28, 30 days gestation. Sometimes you can get false positives on full bladders or tummies full of water. So if you are going to use the pregnancy detector, then it's a good idea to do it first thing in the morning, after she's had a pee, before she eats and drinks a lot. Mm-hmm. And you can do it with them standing up, go underneath, up and down each uterine horn. Or a lot of people just lie them on their laps, on their backs. And we see videos, many of them think they're getting a nice massage and they love it. I mean, it's just an easy, stress-free way to just keep checking them at home. Some breeders have sent us videos where they've successfully counted each puppy, but you have to be pretty, like a Doppler, slow and methodical,
Mm-hmm.
so you're picking up each amniotic sac. Yeah.
And how much is that? I have $406. Does that sound right, US?
Yes, I think so. I hid my paper now. But yes, I think that's right. Yes, that's exactly right.
That's just a couple of ultrasounds, 2 or 3, depending on your vet's pricing.
Yeah, exactly. And then, like, if investing in an ultrasound machine is something that's of interest to you, then there's lots of information about it on the website. So I'd recommend, like, go, take some time and dig in. Like, we've really put quite a bit there to help you sort of, learn. It's not easy to, go online and say, like, I want an ultrasound for dogs. And I mean, you're going to get thousands of options, and some might be $900, and then I mean, you could buy ultrasound machines for $100,000. Like, so no one's ever said, like, this is what you need to know to tell what's good and reliable and what maybe isn't,
So what's the difference in quality between your ultrasound, because you're about mid-range, so
Yeah.
what's the difference in quality between that and, say, the cheap ones that you'll see on eBay or Amazon?
Yeah. Well, first of all, they're all coming in from China. We don't know how safe they are, because they aren't regulated. There aren't any regulations on those. Whereas, the one that we selected and partnered with, we know is very safe. Like, even if you adjust the settings and the frequency and things to be outside, like to something crazy, it'll auto reset back to a safe zone. So you can't ever harm them. Now, harming, an animal with ultrasound is pretty difficult, but is possible, like you could heat up tissue or, things like that. So I would say one is safety. Two is, often the probes aren't right, on these cheaper ones on the internet, the frequencies aren't right, the image quality is really bad. Like, it's just hard to use them because, they just aren't great. Like, it's just kind of poor quality electronics, cheaper probes, things like that. Will they work? I mean, they can do the job for sure, but they're frustrating. And it's almost like, you invest in a decent ultrasound machine with a beautiful image, and it's almost like putting glasses on, when you need them. It's like your images are just so beautiful and clear and easy to interpret. And there was a lot of research that we did before we picked an ultrasound machine for dog breeders, because there's thousands of them, and we wanted something, one, we knew would be really safe. Two, we knew would be really high quality. Three, we wanted it to be easy, because it can be a little intimidating, to take on a technology like that. So we love this ultrasound machine. It's touch screen. It's got a full canine obstetrics and gynecology package in the software. I mean, if you get an image of one of the puppies, you can easily take a measurement of their skulls and it'll auto-calculate the whelping dates for you.
Really? That's great.
Yeah, it's just so easy to use. And more importantly, the manufacturer who designed it is a sonographer. She's a human cardiology sonographer, but she's also been teaching ultrasound courses for canine pregnancy for, gosh, about 7 or 8 years in the UK. We've brought her out to the Canadian Kennel Club in Canada and hosted educational sessions and trainings for ultrasound. So, like, the support that we get and that we can offer the breeders that get the machine, like, who are you going to call if you bought $1,000 machine on eBay?
Right. So can you offer any?
They call us, and then they're like, oh no.
If I get an ultrasound machine, how do I learn how to use it?
Yeah, so we do host trainings. Obviously, they've been put on hold for the moment. So we're moving them into an online course. So we're really excited to launch that, because honestly, it's really pretty straightforward. It's just practice and patience. It's really kind of 3-step, I would say. One is know the anatomy, so you have an idea, you can get oriented of, sort of what you're looking at. 2 is learning the machine. That's pretty easy. We have breeders that send pictures of their scans. They've unpacked the machine, plugged it in, turned it on, and started scanning. Like, they don't want to read a 90-page manual. They just want to go. And they've been really successful. So it's pretty straightforward. We've got a quick start guide that we've put on the website that we include with the machines as well, with all the tips and tricks for, like, scanning dogs for pregnancy. So, so 1 is the machine, 2 is anatomy, and then 3 is, like, interpreting what you're seeing. And the manufacturer of the machine that we use has actually published a book called Canine Pregnancy Ultrasound Scanning. We have none left, long sold out, but you can order them on Amazon and get them, and it's a stellar book.
Okay.
So I can send you the link to that too.
That'd be great. We have a question. I think this is back for the pregnancy detector. How late can it be used from about day 25 until when?
Oh, good question. After day 45, there's really very little fluid left in the sac. So like it's just all puppy. So it's pretty much impossible to use it after that.
Yeah, because the puppy starts taking up all the space.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's picking up fluid. So you're right. Exactly. There's not much fluid in there. There's a whole lot of puppy.
Okay.
I have a question. So with the
Yeah.
pregnancy detector, it isn't like an ultrasound where if they're whelping and you want to know if there's another puppy in there, you can tell.
No.
Okay.
No, exactly. So just like to Xi's point right there, after day 45 gestation, it's not going to be helpful at all. So it's really like a, a yes, no answer after, day 25 gestation up to say day 40 or 45. So if you want to know, is she pregnant or not pregnant, without having to go get an ultrasound or an x-ray, then you can use it for that. But to your point, if you want to be able to make sure there's no puppies left in there, you want to see them, you'll need an ultrasound with a machine. We've had breeders, call us and say, can I send you a scan I just did? And it doesn't look right. And they've diagnosed their own pyometras at home.
Oh, wow.
And saved,
Wow.
Well, that makes
surgeries. Yeah.
That would make sense because there's a lot of fluid in a pyometra, so you certainly should be able to see that. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really actually pretty easy to see bladder infections and uterine infections with ultrasound when you know what you're looking for.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if anybody gets an ultrasound from you, I'm putting out, it's kind of halfway done. It's almost loaded up, an embryonic, a canine embryonic and fetal development class. So that's free.
Oh,
the
great.
fertility course is free, and anything I put up through the end of September as a course will be free with an ultrasound.
Amazing.
I want one.
Well, everybody wants one right now. So full disclosure, we have none.
Oh, wait a minute. So the
Yeah.
order has to be in before the end of September. And when do you think the back will be filled?
Yeah, end of September. So, Vet Image Solutions in the UK. The ultrasound machines are manufactured in the United Kingdom. She's promising us that production should be fully normalized by the end of this month. So we're really excited because the demand, like I said, just exploded for all the devices, and we've really been scrambling to keep up the stock requirements for everybody. So we've been managing a wait list for North America. She's managing a wait list for Europe and the UK. So if it's definitely something on the radar for you, I'd say let us know right away so we can allocate machines as soon as we can get them. Yeah.
I'm gonna get one. We'll talk about that later.
Well, sure. Yeah. We'll hook you up. We've got a great ultrasound machine.
Does anybody have any other questions?
I do. It's Devin.
Hey, Dev.
Hi, Karen. We spoke actually earlier. I had called in about the training courses. I'm like eagerly awaiting that. And I just wanted to say that I appreciated that you guys put some videos on your Facebook page that helped kind of go over the controls for the ultrasound. And it was really nice to see on the video, like the controls for that ultrasound machine that you offer. And I'm kind of kicking myself for buying the other machine because yours looks great. But I did get the book, and the book is wonderful.
Good.
Yeah, I got it. It came in from Amazon, and it's great. So anybody that has an ultrasound that wants to learn a little more, the book is unbelievable.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Do you guys have any idea when the online course might be ready?
I mean, we have all the curriculum. The curriculum's ready. So now we've gone through the process of sort of vetting a platform that we think will be easy, because it's kind of tricky to do like hands-on online courses, you know, online. So now we're trying to collect a lot more scans. So we have like a really good library to put in it, because you're not gonna be doing it live. You're gonna need to see a lot of different things. So I don't know, I get ambitious and get excited, and then I put out a date and then I'm wrong. So I'm scared to say, but I'd say it's going to be within probably a couple months
Okay.
before it'll be finished
By the
and
end of the
ready.
year is probably a fair expectation.
Yeah, I think so. Gosh, and I wanted to share something else about that with the education. It slipped my mind, but it'll come back to me.
All right. Any other questions? Okay, so like I said, I'll post links and some other information. I'm available to help with the Draminski Ovulation Detector, and you'll get some education up about ultrasounds, and we have the book. So I think we're pretty well set. This is like a whole in-home suite of how to deal with your pregnancy, your dog's pregnancy. So it's fabulous. Thank you so much for doing this. And for your first webinar, if this is your first, I can't wait to see your 10th.
Really?
Great
You did
job.
great.
Thank you. Oh, thanks, guys.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry, we've got some more questions.
Oh, great. Sure.
Did you say that we can cause miscarriages from ultrasound? I want to make sure I heard it right.
Oh, that's a good question. I see that, conversations about that going around on social media all the time, and the answer is no. If a miscarriage was timed with an ultrasound, it's coincidence.
Okay.
And I think, most vets would say like it's coincidence, or it was the stress of maybe going to the vet to get the ultrasound. But the consensus on that is that no, ultrasounds are perfectly safe and don't cause miscarriages. So I would say it's coincidence.
It's really hard sometimes to remember that correlation isn't causation. Just because
Exactly.
it's associated with something else doesn't mean it caused it.
Yes.
And it's especially when something not favorable happens, it's really hard to remember that.
Yeah, I think as humans, we want to look for an answer.
Yeah.
So, like we need to have an answer. So you're absolutely agreed.
But we don't want to be superstitious. We want to actually look at the facts. So thank you for sharing that with us. And we will talk to you soon.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks so much, everybody, for having me.
More questions. Yeah. Sorry, the cost of the ultrasound. I'm sorry, we forgot that.
And did I write that?
I have what you sent me. You want me to?
Yeah, I think it's 3,600 US.
Yeah, 36.
And again, that would be, all in with the probe, the right probe for your breed. Because the probes will be different based on the size of the breed that you're using, which is, why I was mentioning earlier, sometimes just ordering one off the internet is really challenging, because the probes are designed with a set frequency in them. Larger dogs, you need to, adjust to much lower frequencies. So a lower frequency ultrasound will penetrate deeper into a larger animal. Higher frequencies are more shallow, in their penetration. So they're better, those probes, for small dogs, but also the probe head, like if you're scanning, a Newfie or a St. Bernard or something, you want something with like a large convex probe. So you're getting like, the view that you need, that footprint's going to be bigger. Whereas if you're scanning, a French Bulldog or something, you want a little micro convex probe. So smaller footprint, higher frequency, like all these things are so important. And it's like I said, it's difficult or impossible for any breeder to go online and figure out like what's really best for them. So we worked so hard to make sure we found you the best solution. It's not the cheapest solution. We really endeavored to find the most affordable, best value solution that didn't sacrifice quality. And that's where we really came in. And plus, like I said, the education and support and ongoing support that we get from the manufacturer was really, really important as well. Yeah.
I have a question. Sorry. So if someone raises mini doodles and standards, would they need 2 probes?
So
So
give
those
me
are-
like, what's the average weight of, say, a mini doodle?
so
Gee, what's the,
25 to 35 pounds would be a mini, and a standard is over 50 pounds, for example.
I would use the same probe on both of them. I think honestly a microconvex probe, the smaller probe, is perfect for both. And especially the standards, like they're not, they're probably still pretty lean. Like they might be taller and stuff, but they don't have sort of the bulk and mass of like a Saint Bernard or a Newfoundland or something. Does that make sense?
Total sense. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Last chance for questions. If not, you can ask in the group and we'll get them answered for you. All right. Thank you so much.
Can I just say, G, I just wanted to say thank you for inviting me. It was actually really fun, and I love to get the questions, and happy to respond to anything that comes up at any time. And this is perfect, really. I mean, like when we started PetTech Solutions, we really wanted to find we wanted to go through your pain to find you the best solutions. That offered good value, but were tried and true. So, because we've heard how many investments you've made in a variety of devices or methods or products, and they fell flat, and it's really discouraging and disappointing. So, we really, honestly, hand over heart, wouldn't put anything in our portfolio unless we absolutely know it works.
Sometimes you try to save money and you spend less, and you end up having to buy the good thing after that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
so
there's one more question. Sorry. The cost for the ultrasound course. Do you remember what that is?
Sorry?
Cost for the ultrasound course once it's available.
Oh, I don't know yet.
Okay.
I mean, I know what it was when we would host them, and that was like a 6-hour hands-on training. So obviously it'll be completely different and lower pricing for online curriculum, but I couldn't answer that just yet. But we're going to make it really accessible.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
and
you.
probably include it with the ultrasound machine. So if you're investing in an ultrasound machine, we'll most likely pair it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. And again, thank you for coming on and giving this a shot with us. This was great.
Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
I really appreciate you guys, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.